Hi, this is Michael Carlin, president of Henry+Horne Wealth Management, and we are joined by Jenny King. Hey, Jenny.
Hey.
We told you part two was coming, and here's part two on trusts. We talked about revocable trusts in our last session together. So today we're going to do irrevocable trusts. Do you want me to do irrevocable or irrevocable? What do you prefer?
Either one.
Either one. You can do either one. So irrevocable trusts are those unchangeable trusts. Those are the kinds of trusts where they function very differently than a revocable family trust that we spoke about. So we have Jenny here to take us through everything we need to know about irrevocable trusts. I know this one could be a half an hour.
Definitely.
So why don't we go through a lot of the high level things, and you can always find Jenny King at Henry+Horne. She's downstairs. You can send us an email. We'll get you in contact with her if you have more questions. But with that, let's go ahead and dive in. A lot of clients come to us and say, Michael, I need a irrevocable trust for asset protection, for creditor protection. So what are they talking about, and how does an irrevocable trust kind of work for that?
Yeah, so usually there's two type of creditors that they want to protect against. So there's kind of the boogeyman creditors, the credit card companies, if there's an unexpected medical event. So they want to protect against those kind of creditors. And then the second type, I call them like the formerly friendly type of creditors. They were possibly a spouse of a child of yours that you don't want them to inherit. You want your kids, you want your grandkids to inherit, but not necessarily a spouse who may become an ex-spouse.
That is a fact. We deal with that all the time.
Yes.
So what do you do?
And so what an irrevocable trust does is you set up the terms, how this trust will operate. And one of the nice things about trusts is that usually there is a third party, or there's a trustee that somewhat controls the spending. So if it's that credit card, protection that you want, a lot of times you're trying to protect a spendthrift against themselves. So you put someone you trust, someone who's maybe a little more financially conservative in that role, to sort of prevent them from spending it all in one place, if you will. And then in terms of, like I said, you can set up the terms so that it will go and benefit your future generations, but cut out any spouses. Right,
but the way that you want. And when you're picking a trustee, lots of people use their accountants. Some people use their accountants.
Some.
Less don't. Financial advisors don't normally make a great choice because there's a conflict of interest there. But it's a lot of times, I see a lot of trusted brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and those kinds of things. And of course, there are plenty of companies that are happy to fill that role too, kind of as like a corporate trustee. We could do a whole one on corporate trustees.
We could, and we've got some great ones in the Valley, that's for sure.
We do.
I work with them all the time. But it really, it is a time commitment, and that is one thing to remember. So not only do you want to pick someone financially savvy to be that trustee, but especially administering a living trust that becomes irrevocable when someone passes away, it is sometimes like a full-time job. So
in the beginning, for sure.
In the beginning, for sure, yeah. And then, usually and hopefully the administration becomes more standard. But that is something to consider when you're selecting a trustee. You want it to be a trusted person, financially savvy, but also who has time to commit.
Tons of people like that floating around. That's a joke. So when people are using an irrevocable trust to avoid their capital gains tax or reduce their taxes, how are they doing that?
Yeah, so in general, trusts, just because of how the tax rate structure is, they're not necessarily going to be an income tax saving strategy.
Right.
We're talking estate tax savings, gift tax savings, but not necessarily income tax savings, because the trusts do hit the highest tax bracket in 2019 at $12,750.
It's not a lot of income to hit the top tax bracket.
Yeah, you don't want to be paying 37% or those 20% capital gains rates on income over those amounts.
But the exception might be the charitable trusts that you make an irrevocable trust. I think that's
Yeah, so there are different variations of charitable trusts. The one thing, though, that income tax-wise, irrevocable trusts, we're talking non-charitable here,
Right.
but there is some state tax planning that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you get your trust set up in one of the states with no income tax, then
Right.
it can grow in that trust without paying those additional taxes, which in some states can be close to 10%.
Got to get your tax planning done to do this right. So we could spend a bunch of time on irrevocable life insurance trust. I think the only thing that I would say there is that there are some instances where if you own a life insurance policy and you want to get it, or if you're going to own a life insurance policy and you're going to want it, and if you want it out of your estate, you can create an irrevocable life insurance trust as a vehicle to do that. Yeah, man, we could do a whole thing on that. But I want to know, since we're running a little short on time, how do people know if an irrevocable trust is right for them? How do they know?
Well, of course, you're going to want to speak with your advisors. You cannot draft these yourself as a layperson. Definitely go get legal assistance, legal counsel. They might be for you if you want privacy. So wills have to be probated through the court. Trusts do not, generally speaking. If you want seamless administration, so if you want, when you pass away or when that trustee passes away, if you want everything laid out, they're nice for that. Creditor protection, like we talked about, and then tax planning, especially for those who are worried about paying some estate taxes when they pass. So life insurance trusts are not generally considered part of your gross estate. Meaning if you've paid, $200,000 in premiums over your life and you have a $2 million policy in there, that difference has escaped estate taxation.
Which can be a huge deal for some. Well, all right, so if you need an irrevocable trust, you clearly need to contact your advisors. Certainly send us an email. We'll get you in contact with Jenny at Henry+Horne. I'm Michael Carlin, president of Henry+Horne Wealth Management. This has been your 101 education on the irrevocable trust. Jenny, we couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much. Take care and have a great day.